Okay, we're back for round two. The last stream, I actually did realize partway through that the audio, background audio and game audio was slightly loud, but then forgot to adjust it. So we're going to run another dungeon. This time around with the music hopefully set at a reasonable volume. So figured I'd come back in, I could test the audio, and we can do another dungeon at the same time. So. Hopefully this is considerably lower. Okay. I believe this is... Oh, we've got her in a Dps setup. So we've got a couple different options here. They're all set up with some semblance of tanking gear. I think I have tanking and damage setups on all four of these. The Necro, I believe, was the one that has the least going on, because I think I sacrificed some of her gear for one or more of these other characters just to keep from having to craft some additional items. I think she's only got a tanking setup, and even the tanking setup on this one is limited. Take a look real quick. The last one was with the DK, which was kind of my current go-to, the Dragon Knight, primarily Magicka based, but I like, if I'm going to be running dungeons, it's kind of fun to be able to mix it up and swap back and forth. I like tanking. It is actually one of my favorite things to do in the game, and it's easier to get in for pledges or group finder stuff as a tank, so it's quicker to get going. There's a lot of people that don't like tanking in general, or tanking in this game specifically, which I guess is understandable. I'm not big on healing either, and there are some people in this game that absolutely love healing. I've run healers before. I've had healer builds. I just find it to be less rewarding overall as a playstyle, so just personal preference. But I do like tanking. Tanking is very rewarding, depending on what you're running through for content. Actually can be challenging for some of the newer content. Quite challenging as a tank. Let's see what's running here. Oh, okay, that's right. So we're running Drake's Rush on the back bar, and then Leeching on the front. Kind of a split setup. We've got a trainee piece here for some additional health, and then Bloodlord's Embrace. Get more mag recovery. This is alpha gear again. You can see I've got a number of setups. Everywhere where you see red, basically that's missing gear that's probably sitting on somebody else. New Moon, Trickery, and Zol. There's the PvP setup. It's funny, the Necro specifically, I really enjoy. I'm not a huge PvPer, but when I do PvP, Necro is a great class for PvP. Love Necro for PvP. I'm not good at it. I've done a decent amount. I guess my alternate accounts, I've got 2 additional ones, and I think both of those accounts are sitting on Captain, I want to say, in terms of like, just if that gives you an idea for playtime. So I've PvP'd a bit. I didn't do it for a number of years just because it wasn't really my thing. I'm not a big PvPer. definitely prefer the PvE, even solo. It's been kind of my thing for years, but I got to a point where I had done so much of the other stuff in the game that I figured, hey, what the hell, I'll go give it a run. And once you're doing it, the funny thing is with PvP, what I found is the more I dedicated to it, the more fun it became. So it's like once you get into that realm, then it just becomes the new thing, and that is literally what I did for 4 or 5 months straight. Is just nothing but PvP. I'd log in and just go to Cyrodiil. I'm not as big on the battlegrounds. I do enjoy the Cyrodiil stuff though. And I think that helps you, especially if you're playing with the same character, the same class. It helps you get more familiar. So the muscle memory starts to set in, and it becomes easier over time. Still not easy. I'm still not good. I still constantly get squashed, but it does become more fun, and especially for small groups, I do enjoy running anywhere from like 3 to 6 players. Is a good setup. Keeps it balanced, I think. So she's got that stuff set up, but other than that, it looks like the tanking is the only other one. So I'm gonna switch actually over to one of the other ones, which does have a little better setup. I prefer Drake's Rush rather. Is it's a great set, especially for Necro, because they have the ultimate. So getting ulti gain on really on any tank is good. DKs, they're very, very good. So Drake's Rush is a nice set to run. You'll probably note as I do more of these streams with ESO specifically, and kind of give you an idea as the loadout. I really like the split bar loadouts, where basically you're running one set on the front bar and a separate set on the back bar, because it affords you 2 additional slots by doing it that way. There's the sacrifice of whatever you're losing 1 set bonus. You're losing 2. You're losing 2 bonuses from each set respectively, depending on which bar you're on. But for a lot of these sets, they offer those 4 and 5 beef bonuses will offer you something that is a state of being, I'm not explaining this well. Essentially, it'll give you a buff for maybe 8 or 10 or 12 seconds when you're on that bar, which allows you then to swap back to the other bar, but you still retain the buff. So depending on what on how you build it out, you can really, really maximize by doing these split bar setups, because you can gain the buffs or the benefits of a secondary set on your back bar while getting the 2 additional slots, which gives you additional bonuses for various sets, whether it's a mythic item or trainee is a very, very good because it's a 1-piece bonus. And all that does is basically just give you that many more benefits or buffs. So I like to do the split bar setups when I can. It doesn't always work because depending on whether you're tanking or doing damage, tanking primarily I think is where I look for it, because damage dealing, normally you're running a Maelstrom on the back or one of the arena weapons, so it's not as critical. So we ran DK before. I think I did that one last time. Try the Warden. I haven't run the Warden in a while. She's got a damage dealing setup. Warden, in the list of tanks preferences for which class I prefer, I'm back to the DK as my primary. The Templar is fun. Right now my Templar tank is actually set up with the Tormentor gear. It's fun. It's definitely fun. I've actually got that loadout has an alternate loadout specifically for Werewolf, because when the Werewolf leaps, it will activate the Tormentor set, which of course taunts everything around you. Templars also have their charge, their main charge ability, also is an AoE, so you can AoE taunt using that as well. So either setup works, and it's just a fun, it's a fun playstyle, fun tanking style, and works really, really well. You can be first in the room, and essentially, especially if they're grouped up, you can taunt large groups just with one attack. So it's pretty fun. But Warden is definitely up there in general. In terms of survivability and tanking group utilities, it's pretty nice.
The Khajiit have...
See, I'm still leveling up my mount speed and capacity and stuff. These characters don't all have things maxed. 92 out of 179. So inventory looks good. Inventory looks good. So this particular one, actually I did a, she's got a tanking setup as well. See here, it looks like Leeching and Kind Marcher. But this is a good example actually of some of the new hybridization options that they've incorporated in the last 6 months or so. And I was running this before then, but this is a really, really fun setup. On a Warden, I'm essentially running a combination of what used to be more traditionally Iceheart was kind of Magicka set. Well, now we've just got plain crit chance, and this offers shielding as well. So she's running Iceheart for the monster set. This one's running New Moon as well, so this is one of the builds where I'm utilizing New Moon. So medium New Moon, looks like we've got Jewelry, and then she's running Vicious Ophidian, which is really, really solid for sustain, plus just the benefits of that you're getting from the speed boosts and that kind of thing. This is a great set. I didn't do trials for the longest time, so this actually took me quite a while to get, but once I finally got in there and got the pieces, I love this set. So Vicious Ophidian, New Moon, Iceheart, dual wield on the front, daggers, precise, and Nirnhone, so you're getting a decent amount of crit and damage. And then on the back bar, I'm actually running a Maelstrom Ice Staff. So it gives you... the playstyle is definitely more of a hybrid-y playstyle. It's fun. And I think when I tested this, if I recall, the output from this, damage output, was actually comparable, which is strange to say, but it was actually comparable to that of the Maelstrom Bow. That's why I ended up going this direction. So, as a Warden with kind of an ice theme, it's a lot of fun to play. But we don't want this, so in this particular case, because we're going to be tanking.
The wood elf known as
That's a damn...
So we're going to talk to our armory buddy here. And yeah, I've got a slot available for Magicka. And then we'll go with our tank setup. Tank setup looks like it's Leeching, front, and no, sorry, just the front, and then Kind Marcher on the back. Double sword and board. Rakugums. Okay, so this is kind of what I was getting at with the front and back setup. So in this case, because I'm running a separate set, this is Leeching plate on the front bar, and then the back bar is Kind Marchers. The 5-piece, you get a 4-piece that's armor, so you'll lose that when you flip to the front. But the 5-piece, when you deal direct damage, you apply one of 5 random major debuffs to enemies within 8 meters of you for 18 seconds. And it's got an 8-second essentially cooldown before another one can trigger. So you can have up to, technically up to 3 different random buffs active, and the only thing I have to worry about is being on this bar every 8 seconds, flipping to the back bar every 8 seconds in order to trigger one of those buffs, deal direct damage, I'm going to be dealing direct damage with the inner beast on the back bar, or just a standard hit something, essentially, which will trigger it. And then when I flip back to the front bar, I retain whatever that buff is. So this is a good example of a split bar setup where you're losing a little bit of armor when you flip to the front, but essentially the buffs themselves will stay with you when you flip to the front. So it opens up 2 additional pieces in your build. And because of that, I'm actually using a mythic item, Torque of Tonal Constancy, as one of that helps with the sustain. And then the other piece that I'm using is this is actually a trainee piece. I went with the heavy armor. This is actually a piece that drops, a custom piece that drops overland, so it's easy to get. And I just golded it out just to get the maximum benefit from it. Silver Leash is the Fighters Guild. This is what I use to chain things in. So it kind of works the same way as the DK chains. Got a CC through Turn Evil. They're both Fighters Guild skills. And then I'm running Shield Wall on the front, which I don't tend to use too much. I primarily am just using the Enchanted Forest just to help heal the group. So I haven't run this in a bit, so we'll see how it goes, but for the most part this is a pretty decent thing. But the biggest thing with these split builds for me is remembering that I need to be back, because it's different depending on the set. X number of seconds I need to flip to the back bar to do whatever in order to trigger the buffs. So that's probably the biggest drawback, if you will, is being aware of what sets you're running on the front and the back in order to make sure that you're maximizing the buff times. So that being said, let's select it and equip it. Notice here it's saying it's going to cure the lycanthropy. It's fine, we're not using werewolf for this tanking setup. There's our Rakugum's Helm healing, so that heals and gives stamina. Actually, they change back. Does this give magic in it? Yeah, it does. Okay, so this is now giving mag and stam plus the health. Way. Fully repaired.
The wood elf known as Finindren has been found guilty
Okay,
of the
I think that's it.
following
Let's go
crimes.
pick up the... Hold on. Making sure I have everything here. It indicated that it didn't have an ability. Looks like everything's here. Hopefully the audio is better this go around. Music was definitely killing things on the last run. Yeah, generally speaking, I really look forward to whether it comes through DLC or the chapters. The content releases for me at this point aren't so much about the content exploration, new lands, new quests, that type of thing. a lot of it for me is what changes are coming down on the combat side, so whether it's changes to skills, buffs, and new sets, or alterations to existing sets. To
You
banish
look like you.
cells,
The
run.
Not enough, eh? What are you waiting?
Okay. We already did the other pledge. In case you didn't see the video, we already did the other one. Vaults of Madness today on the other one, my other character. I came back in basically to readjust the audio, make sure everything's looking good. Plus, I figured, why not run another one? Maybe we'll do a random normal after this. Those are always interesting. Banish cells. Oh, hold on, let me grab that. Got to change my role. Not queuing as a DD. Yay! 15 minutes left on my food. Okay. This particular setup, make sure I got my Mundus Stone. So decent stam recovery, decent health. Health works really well for the wardens, because their main heal, which heals you and another player, is actually based off this. So, not running a lot of magicka, but I'm running sword and board, front and back, so fine. The armor buffs everybody within radius. 8 meters. The other morph is a larger radius, but if your group is semi-close, this can be beneficial to them as well. CC, Range Taunt. This is the heal you and a group member. It's going to be giving you stam back as well as clearing snares, I believe it is. Negative effect, yeah, okay. Healing. Minor evasion. Gonna be minor vulnerability. Taunt. Shield. And then pulling them in. Like I said, I don't really use shield wall all that much. This is kind of a go-to for harder content, or if you need to basically res someone. Chances of getting hit are high. I wonder if I flubbed the Q here, because it's not normally, as a tank doesn't take this long. Banish cells 1. That was 1, so that's the correct one. Oh, normal. Ah, what did I do? I am not paying attention. Hold on. No. Normal. Wow. Okay. We're on the ball today. That might get some better. Because normally anybody running pledges, well, I shouldn't say anybody. There are going to be some people that are still running pledges on normal. But for anybody that's been playing a bit longer, generally speaking, especially base game stuff, they're much more likely to run them on vet because the rewards are better. We'll see if that works better. Moonbeam Collegium. Lots of different guilds. They've done a really decent job over the years. I know they've definitely had some low points as far as the development efforts, things that were released that broke some stuff, but they've done a pretty good job over the years of continually producing content that brings people back. The fact that this has been going since 2014 and still has the player base that it has speaks volumes as far as what they've been doing with it. So I'm glad. It's definitely been a fun game over the years. Bear with me, I haven't used to playing the DK, so gotta remember all my buffs and debuffs. Remember that back bar attack. Triggered Kind Marchers. Say if you're newer to the game and you're looking to tank, you're running ahead. It's just personal opinion, but I think DK is probably one of the harder classes that you can start with. I know it's the traditional kind of go-to tank, and it's definitely set up to be very, very capable for tanking. But I remember years ago, attempting to work with DK, both as a tank and damage dealing specifically, and it's a different animal. Oh, here's a chest. Wow, that's quick. It's a different animal than some of the other classes. I had good luck starting out with Templar. If you can get your hands on the Tormentor set, that actually is a really fun playstyle. So I would definitely recommend that. You can play not only as just a base Templar, but you can play as a werewolf too, if you want. If you that would help if I paid attention here. But I think if I were starting out, in terms of tanking, Warden is a really good choice. Really solid choice. Oh, we got a good group today. It's burning through the bosses. It's just overall, especially having a class-based heal. Templar recently got upgraded to where it finally has a class-based heal through its main rune, which is definitely nice. Having a health-based heal, I know there are some people, like, I would probably say most people on PvP, I don't know if it's a purist issue, but some people don't like health-based healing. They think it's OP. But as someone who tanks on a regular basis, I don't need to have OP damage as a tank, but I do want survivability. And even better than that, if I can offer similar survivability to at least one other group member, that's a really solid option to have. And the Warden has had that, I believe, from the get-go, from the initial release. They've had that capability, and that makes a big difference, not just for you, but for someone else in your team. So you're providing a really nice alternate healing mechanism where your healer, or for those groups that don't even go with a healer, maybe you've got 3 damage dealers. It provides a nice nice way of basically keeping the group topped off in an emergency. Wow, these guys are... Yeah, this is a decent group. Pickup groups, you never know who's going to be in the group, but guys seem to know what they're doing in terms of damage output. It's pretty solid. Warden in general, just in terms of survivability, it's also decent in that regard. So, jumpy here, and I found it to be a lot easier to sustain. Specifically, DKs. Again, maybe it's just a playstyle. DKs I found both in damage and in tanking can be more difficult to sustain because it's not apparent that you need to use your ult. And there are times when maybe you don't even want to use your ultimate. You want to save it for something else. So having that as a mechanism to gain resources back is great, but that assumes that you can use it when it's available, and you don't always want to do that. So it becomes more difficult to sustain. And as a tank and a damage dealer both, sustain... No, that's fine. Ice walls. Sustain is really important. Being able to actually not run out of resources. And I didn't have that issue with the Warden.
It's the outsiders. So the keepers are afraid to...
Oh, block. I hit the wrong key. I don't need to go into the menu. Yeah, this is a quick run.
You think you've beaten me? How amusing. Haven't you noticed that the pact I've made protects me from death?
Ignore his words, keepers. Begin the separation.
I'm not confident this will
So that was
work,
quick. Yeah,
Senior.
that was nice. Easy run. Like I said, you never know who you're going to get in a pickup group like this.
Oh, I do so love to see magic.
Akuta Matata.
Is that what this is? This isn't as grand as the spells I learned from the Daedra. But I don't expect much from mortal.
So, Warden's definitely a good choice. Like I said, you don't have to use Tormentor with the Templar. Templars, I think my initial things were Magicka Templars for tanking. That setup actually worked fairly well as well. Nightblades are great tanks if you build them, I don't want to say appropriately. They can be good tanks, but it depends on the build. Because I've tried different setups over the years, and Nightblade was definitely lacking in some areas, but again, that just comes down to the build. I currently have Nightblade builds that I run as primary tanks, where the overall combination of the build and the skills works fantastically. It's one of the most survivable tanks I think I've ever built. So a lot of it comes down to the sets that you're using and how you're combining things.
Ha! I knew you'd come back. My mother would say something. For undaunted who... Nice work today.
Yeah. DK, if you can master it, I like alternating. I like playing. Usually I'll switch to something, and especially if it's a new build, I will play it for a good month or so. That becomes kind of my go-to build until I come up with a better idea, or they release a new set, or something else changes mechanically within the game to where you have new options available. I think that really gives new life to the game, and they know that, the developers know that as much as people complain about alterations to skills, tweaks to sets, whatever it may be, it's affording people like me that have been in the game for years the ability to come up with new builds, theory craft something that's new and creative and fun to play, which then reinvigorates going in and actually playing, because you want to go in and obviously test out that build and work with it for a while. So and tanking in this game is one of those areas where you really can do a lot of exploration and try out weird, goofy things that may not work in other scenarios, but because you're a tank, it affords you the ability to do things that you might not otherwise think of or be able to do. And most of the content that I run with friends, family. So it's unlike this. The pickup groups, normally pledges nowadays, I just do a pug, that's fine. Harder content, normally I will run with friends or family, people that I know, so we can kind of balance out the group utility and maximize it, so we're going to get through the content more easily. So that's that. I just wanted to basically test out the audio again. The mic setup is relatively new on my end, so getting used to individual games, audio levels, mic audio levels based on the game, that kind of thing is tweaking as I go here. So hopefully this one was a bit more audible, and should be back here for some more content soon. Thanks.